Hello and welcome to a new video. I just woke up, but we have some news. A Bellsprout community day got teased by Pokemon Go way too early. This was not intended to be already teased for this one, but now we know that the Bellsprout community day is going to be the next community day. So let's take a look at some stats for that. This is going to be something that some people anticipated, mainly because of the date where the Cday is going to be held, because it's 420, but it is what it is. We're going to have here the Bellsprout community day on 20th of April from 2 PM till 5 PM. Very likely, otherwise we don't really know anything, because the only thing that we got is a video that I'm not going to be able to show you because Pokemon Go for Brazil already took it off, so we cannot really take a look at it at all. So what's going to be happening here? Otherwise, of course, we're going to have the 3 hours instant, 3 hours lures, 2 times candies. Basically, it's like the stuff that we have for every Cday. We don't know what the bonus is going to be. I would imagine it's going to be Stardust, to be fair there. And we also don't know the featured attack. The thing is, there are 2 attacks that make a lot of sense for this one. And I'm also gonna make a follow-up video that's going to be a little bit more in-depth, depending on what it's going to be at the end of the day. But let's take a look at the 2 options, at least I think are going to be, the most likeliest. So, the first one is the one that I think is less likely, but I would say that Weather Ball Fire would make a lot of sense. Why? Because Victreebel is a chlorophyll sweeper in the main series games. If you know what this means, basically, if you set up Sun, this Pokemon is double the speed, which makes this Pokemon as a high attack stat Pokemon, like in Pokemon Go as well, very, very scary as a sweeper. And you can play Weather Ball Fire with that, which some people do as coverage move, which does make a lot of sense against Steel types, as you are a Grass and Poison type Pokemon. And so Weather Ball Fire would make some sense for this Pokemon. You give up on Acid Spray, which can be a little bit tricky and might not be the ideal play, but it gives you coverage against Steel-type Pokemon. And so this might be an interesting play to have for the Victreebel just to counter Steel-type Pokemon. What you're going to see here right now is that if we're going to compare it to the normal variant with the Acid Spray, we're going to have an increase by like 12 average rating, nothing too crazy. We're actually going to... we're going to lose 1 more because 1 was the draw here. I don't know how this is going to happen, but basically it is not going to change like crazy much. We can still take a look here what it does in the 2-shield scenario as well with the Weather Ball Fire. It's going to be way better. It's still very solid compared to the Acid Spray. It would be still a little bit better. So like it would be a little bit of an upgrade. I think it would be okay for a Victreebel. I think this could be the case as well for the move. Makes some sense at least. But we can move on to basically how this is going to perform in the Open Great League directly. Here you're going to see the both variants next to each other with a Razor Leaf Blade, and then either Acid Spray or Weather Ball Fire. And what we're gonna see if we scroll down here is it's the same. It's not really going to change quite anything. You still win against the Registeel no matter what, but basically you would have at least something to hurt those Skarmories with, which would be kind of interesting, I think, because a lot of times you have like a team against you where you can at least get some chip damage already against Skarmory with either like a weakly tough or against like your Bastion or something, and then they swap out eventually. And if you have like the Weather Ball stored for this, like Weather Ball against the Skarmory would most likely do quite a lot of damage. Let's take a look at the matchup here real quick, because we can. The Weather Ball does around 50%, which would be kind of cool for you. So might be interesting in some certain scenarios for sure. You can actually play this Pokemon still for the Ultra League, which is kind of hilarious. But what we're going to see here right now as well as a difference, you can win against Virizion, that's basically it. So there's nothing crazy happening there. We can move on now to the Great League variant, which I'm more interested in for a different one. And this is the thing that I expect like the most, which is going to be Vine Whip. Vine Whip is a move that I think Bellsprout already knows right now. It is a move that's definitely going to be able to learn, of course, with that. And it's going to be a move that's going to make this Pokemon very, very different towards what we saw before. This is Razor Leaf. Again, 521 average rating in the 1-shield scenario. We're gonna get that a little bit higher here. And this is going to be an interesting thing as well, because I could see that Acid Spray might not even be the way to go with the Vine Whip, because Acid Spray plus Razor Leaf was great, like dropping the defense to guarantee more damage with your fast move is amazing. But you don't really need it with Vine Whip. Vine Whip doesn't do damage. And then you have even more of like kind of coverage with this Pokemon, because you do great damage with the Poison plus the Grass type. And so that's going to be an interesting one. Maybe even run Solar Beam just for the fun, but I don't think that's going to Actually looks better. But yeah, this one is basically you have some more options with that. We're still gonna go for Acid Spray here real quick for the first one. We can still change afterwards. But yeah, difference between Wine Whip and Razor Leaf, you can actually now win against Pelipper as well as Annihilate. And with Grass Types being basically completely dead in the current meta, I actually think that this is going to be a great change for the future if this is going to actually happen. As, yeah, this would basically make the Victreebel a very good Pokemon to use. Let's take a look real quick on how this is going to be with the Sludge Bomb. Now, I kind of want to see also how it's going to be in the two-shot scenario, because I feel like two-shot scenarios are kind of where Razor Leaf really shines, but maybe it's going to be different now as well. This was like 1-2-0 and 1 average rating. Here, two-shield, you're still going to be better against Cresselia, which is kind of interesting, and you're going to lose against Stunfisk as well as Pelipper, which is also interesting, but still, like, this Pokemon would be just a different playstyle. I could still see that some people would rather go for the Razor Leaf, but I still think that the Wine Whip would be a little bit more consistent. In the Zero Shield scenario, you're going to be able to beat the Feraligatr pretty easily, but the rest is going to be a little bit tricky. Basically, the cool thing here is I saw some gameplay with Go-God recently on the channel as well, and you get to the second Leaf Blade after only 4 fast moves, which is kind of wild with the Wine Whip. So Wine Whip plus the Razor with a Leaf Blade is really overpowered, so I would really recommend you to take a look at this. If this is going to be the case, and definitely try to get one if we're going to get this move, but of course we don't really know yet. Let's move on real quick to the Ultra League meta. Ultra League is going to also be interesting here. Wine Whip compared to the Razor Leaf, you're going to see there's not really the biggest difference other than like Greedent or Tentacruel, which is going to be better for you. Also, you win against Virizion now, which is kind of nice, but again, I feel like might be, it's actually already with Sludge Bomb here in this meta anyway, so it doesn't really make too much sense to go for Acid Spray in the Ultra League anyway. Mainly because the Pokemon are just too bulky. That's why you also see, for example, a Tentacruel rather opt to go for Blizzard compared to the Acid Spray, because also you give coverage, of course, to like flying type Pokemon, like also something to dragon type Pokemon like the Giratina Altered, but also you just don't really have a great benefit from having the Acid Spray in this meta, because just the bulk, like, it doesn't really make it too good for that. Let's take a look real quick on this Pokemon in the two-shield scenario. Definitely has some potential though in the Ultra League, which is going to be interesting. We're going to see that we can actually win some more matchups as well. So I would say, at least for me, it's more likely to be Wine Whip than the Weather Ball. But let me know in the comment section what you think about it. Like, what would you want to see for Victreebel? Do you feel like, please don't be a good move, because then like Victreebel going to be even more common? But honestly, like, if you go for a Wine Whip, it's kind of just like a better variant of Venusaur. That's basically it, because Leaf Blade is one of the strongest moves in the game. Basically the strongest move in my opinion in the game in terms of a charge move. Like, there are others that do more damage, of course, but if you look at damage per energy, it's basically, for everything here, the cheapest move for the twos. Like, here Psycho Boost is the same, but like has a 100% chance to drop your attack by 2 stages. Leaf Blade is by far the best charge move in my opinion, because 35 energy, 70 damage is just absolutely madness. So, I don't know, this is going to be an interesting community day. I hope it's going to be a good move in my opinion. I think Wine Whip is fine for it. I'm just a little bit scared for Wine Whip also for the future of the game, because right now in the current meta, Grass-type Pokemon are pretty bad. There are a lot of Flying-type Pokemon around, and even though there are a lot of Water and Ground-type Pokemon around, it's still kind of tricky to run those Grass-type Pokemon, so I'm curious. I'm honestly very curious on how this is going to turn out, but we most likely going to have more information very, very soon. I might make another video for this, but this is going to be it for this one. Stay tuned for this. If you haven't subscribed already, would appreciate, of course. There's going to be a video in like around 1.5 hours with the Shadow Salamence, so definitely take a look at that, and I see you then. Bye-bye.